America, hear this urgent message: God is speaking, and the hour of reckoning is upon you. This is not a time for indifference or delay, this is a divine warning to awaken and align with the Creator's will. The voice of the Almighty reverberates through the heavens, piercing the silence of the night, calling out to a nation that stands at a crossroads. The signs are unmistakable, the warnings have been delivered, and now the call to repentance and renewal resounds with an urgency that cannot be ignored. This is not a fleeting moment or a mere coincidence, it is the fulfillment of prophecy, a divine summons to a nation that has strayed from its sacred foundations. The history of America is one woven with threads of divine purpose. From its inception, this nation was established with a covenant, a sacred agreement to honor the principles of righteousness, justice, and faith. The early settlers, driven by a vision of a land where freedom and faith could flourish, sought to build a society that reflected the glory of God. They prayed, they toiled, and they dedicated this land to the Creator, believing that their endeavors were guided by His hand. Yet, over time, that covenant has been neglected, its terms forgotten, its promises broken. The nation has turned from the path of righteousness, chasing after fleeting pleasures, material wealth, and ideologies that lead only to division and despair. But God, in His infinite mercy, has not abandoned America. He is a God of justice, yes, but also a God of grace. He does not desire destruction but restoration. He does not wish for judgment but for reconciliation. Even now, as the shadows of consequence loom large, He extends an invitation to return to Him, to seek His face, and to restore the broken relationship. This is not a call to fear but to hope, not a summons to despair but to renewal. The Creator is reaching out, offering a path back to the covenant that once defined this nation's purpose. The signs of the times are all around us. Look to the skies, where storms rage with unprecedented fury. Look to the land, where division and strife tear at the fabric of society. Look to the hearts of the people, where fear, anger, and confusion have taken root. These are not random occurrences, they are the echoes of a divine warning, the ripples of a spiritual reality that cannot be ignored. The Almighty has spoken through His prophets, through His word, and through the very events that unfold before our eyes. The question is not whether God is speaking but whether America is listening. The time for complacency has passed. The hour is late, and the divine clock is ticking. Every moment of delay is a moment lost, a step closer to a reckoning that could have been avoided. This is not a time to cling to pride or to hide behind excuses. It is a time to humble oneself before the Creator, to acknowledge the ways in which this nation has fallen short, and to seek forgiveness with a contrite heart. The call to repentance is not a burden but a gift, an opportunity to turn from the path of destruction and to embrace the promise of redemption. Consider the weight of this moment. The choices made today will shape the destiny of this nation for generations to come. Will America rise to meet the challenge, or will it continue down a path that leads only to ruin? The future hangs in the balance, and the responsibility lies with every citizen, every leader, every heart that beats within this land. This is a pivotal moment in history, a turning point that will determine whether America will reclaim its divine purpose or succumb to the consequences of its own choices. The Almighty has not left America without guidance. His word remains a lamp unto our feet, a light unto our path. The Scriptures speak of a God who is slow to anger and abounding in love, a God who desires that none should perish but that all should come to repentance. The stories of old, of Nineveh, of Israel, of nations that turned back to God and were spared, stand as a testament to His mercy. America, too, can be a story of redemption, a nation that heeds the call and returns to its first love. But repentance is not a passive act. It is not enough to offer lip service or to go through the motions of faith. True repentance requires a turning of the heart, a deliberate choice to reject the ways of the world and to embrace the ways of God. It demands humility, honesty, and a willingness to confront the sins of the past and present. It calls for a rejection of division, of greed, of injustice, and of all that stands in opposition to the Creator's will. It is a commitment to live differently, to love fiercely, and to walk in righteousness. America, you were founded on principles that reflect the heart of God. You were called to be a beacon of hope, a land where justice and freedom would reign, where the poor would be lifted up, and the oppressed would find refuge. Yet, in your pursuit of greatness, you have often lost sight of these ideals. You have built towers of wealth while neglecting the widow and the orphan. You have celebrated power while ignoring the cries of the marginalized. You have proclaimed liberty while allowing chains of injustice to bind the vulnerable. But it is not too late to change course. The invitation to return to God is an invitation to rediscover your purpose. It is a call to rebuild the foundations that have crumbled, to restore the values that once united this nation. It is a summons to come together as one people, not divided by race, class, or creed, but united by a shared commitment to truth, justice, and love. This is not a task for one person or one group, it is a collective calling, a divine mandate that requires the participation of every soul who calls this nation home. America, listen. There is a trembling in the winds, a whisper through the valleys, a stirring in the soul of this nation. It is not the voice of politics, not the clamor of news, not the echo of opinion. It is the voice of the Almighty, calling, warning, pleading. It is a voice both fierce and tender, full of justice yet overflowing with mercy. It does not come to destroy but to awaken. It does not come to condemn but to restore. Yet restoration cannot begin with pride. It begins where every great renewal has ever begun, on our knees. Prayer is not a ritual for quiet moments, it is the cry of the desperate, the plea of a nation standing on the edge of consequence. America, the path to restoration begins when hearts bow before the Creator, when lips confess what pride has concealed, when souls turn from the illusion of self-sufficiency and acknowledge the One from whom all blessings flow. Prayer is not weakness, it is the strongest act a nation can perform, for it invites divine strength into human frailty. It is in that posture, heads bowed, spirits humbled, that the first stone of rebuilding is laid. But after prayer must come pursuit. It is not enough to lift hands in worship if we do not use those hands for works of righteousness. True repentance is proven in action. A nation cannot ask for healing while it harbors injustice. It cannot pray for unity while feeding division. It cannot cry out for favor while clinging to hatred. The call is not only to feel, it is to move toward compassion, to defend the weak, to speak for the voiceless, to mend what is broken. The heart of God must be mirrored in the actions of His people, justice for the oppressed, mercy for the fallen, kindness for the stranger. Only then does heaven look upon a land and call it righteous. Leaders, your calling is sacred. Authority is not power, it is responsibility. You have been entrusted not to serve ambition, but to serve truth. Govern with integrity, or step aside. For God does not bless titles, He blesses character. Communities, your bond must be stronger than the forces that seek to divide you. Stand together when storms rage. Stand for what is right, even when it costs something. Families, rebuild your altars. Teach your children not only to chase success, but to seek wisdom, to love righteousness, to honor God above all. For America, your blessings have been many, but blessings unattended become burdens. Prosperity can intoxicate. Freedom can turn to rebellion. Opportunity can foster pride. Do not forget, every gift you have enjoyed was placed in your hands by a gracious God. You did not build this alone. You did not rise by luck. You were carried, guided, protected. But what is not stewarded can be stripped away. The ruins of empires past whisper a sobering truth: no nation is invincible, no people are beyond the reach of consequence. History is full of those who pledged allegiance to themselves, not to God. They rose, shimmering with pride, only to crumble beneath the weight of their arrogance. America, do not think you are immune. The same God who watched over your birth will preside over your judgment, if you forsake Him. A nation that legalizes deceit, celebrates immorality, silences truth, and mocks righteousness, cannot long endure. You cannot sow rebellion and reap peace. You cannot reject His voice and expect His protection. But hear this: this is not a message of condemnation, for the heart of God still beats with mercy. The promise of redemption remains, as strong today as in the days of ancient Israel. The God who parted seas, who raised dry bones, who restored prodigals and revived nations, is the same God who calls you now. He has not changed. His mercy has not expired. His arms remain open. He does not desire your destruction, He desires your return. America, you are at a crossroads. The hour is late, but it is not yet gone. You have been given a divine pause, a moment of decision. Heaven watches. The destiny of this land will not be determined by elections or economics, but by one question: will you return to God? Not in ceremony, not in slogan, but in truth. Will you lay down pride? Will you tear down idols? Will you rebuild the altars your ancestors once kept aflame? This moment is not just another page in history, it is a divine intersection where past wounds meet future possibilities. You stand at the threshold of a new beginning, a moment pregnant with potential, where the collective breath of a nation can be drawn as one or dispersed into chaos. The choice before you is stark, a new chapter that is not written with the ink of turmoil and despair but inscribed with the flame of revival and restoration. The halls of worship need not echo with mere tradition, nor should cities be arenas of conflict. Instead, they must resonate with the power of transformation and holy fire. Imagine churches filled not with rituals emptied of power but with hearts ablaze, communities not fractured by discord but united in compassion, and people whose value is judged not by their material possessions but by the radiance of their souls. This is not mere idealism. It is the very blueprint of hope, drawn by the author of life who calls us to participate in the story of redemption. But this revival, the renewal of the Spirit and the healing of the land, does not begin with them. It begins with you. It begins with me. It begins with a deep, personal reckoning that turns away from complacency and toward the things that truly matter. If my people, who are called by my name, will humble themselves and seek my face, then healing will come. This promise is not theoretical, it is urgent, immediate, and personal before it can ever be national. The revival you long for cannot be outsourced to others. It requires your surrender, your prayers, your willingness to be a vessel of change and a beacon of light. Ignoring this call comes with grave consequences. These are not ordinary times in which you live. The winds of change are fierce, and the storms that approach are both seen and unseen. Spiritual warfare charges at the gates of your communities and your hearts. The enemy does not wear a single face but moves strategically, seeking to consume from within through division, fear, and apathy. Yet, there is no cause for fear of external forces, no reason to tremble before the visible threats, for a people guarded by heaven cannot be conquered from the outside. The real danger lies in forgetting God, in turning away from the source of protection and power. No army nor strategy, no political maneuver nor social movement can save a nation that has forsaken its Creator. But despair is not your destiny, for God has not abandoned you. Beneath the noise of confusion and the clamor of unrest, there is a stirring, quiet, persistent, powerful. A remnant is rising, small in number yet mighty in spirit. These are the ones who refuse to bow to Baal, who reject complacency and worldly distractions, who carry the torch of intercession and vigilance. They are your watchmen, hidden, faithful, fervent. They pray in the night, fast with purpose, and weep for the land with hearts broken by love and hope. This remnant is the seed of awakening, the living proof that revival is not only possible but imminent. And you are called to join them, not as spectators but as participants, not in passive agreement but active obedience. Return to prayer, not as an empty ritual or a mere habit, but as a lifeline, an urgent, desperate reaching for the hand of God that holds life itself. Pray with a heart washed in humility, seeking cleansing rather than comfort. Cry out not for material blessing alone, but for boldness to walk in truth and righteousness. Let your homes become havens of peace, your conversations channels of confession and healing, and your gatherings moments of encounter with the living God. Revival will not roll in from the top down, nor will it march in through the grand edifices of human institutions. It will ignite in the quiet corners of living rooms, in the undisturbed hearts of everyday people, in whispered prayers of repentance and surrender. Do not wait passively for spectacular signs in the heavens or dramatic upheavals. The sign is already present within you, the ache that gnaws at your soul, the urgency quickening your spirit, the quiet but relentless conviction that something must change. This inner voice is the voice of God calling you back, not to a religion full of empty words and hollow practices, but to a genuine relationship that transforms and sustains. He calls you away from shallow patriotism that clings to symbols without substance, and toward a holy purpose that transcends politics and culture. Not toward temporary comfort, but eternal destiny. This is not a moment for slumber or distraction. It is not a time for endless debate while the foundations crumble beneath your feet. It is a time to rise, above division, above apathy, above fear. Rise in courage to speak truth tempered with love. Rise in humility to stand for righteousness. Rise with unwavering commitment to defend the sanctity of life, the sacredness of covenant, and the clarity of moral vision. The gospel you carry is not just a message of individual salvation, it is the only power capable of saving souls and nations alike. The path before you will be difficult. There will be trials, opposition, and resistance. Expect to be mocked, misunderstood, and labeled as outdated or irrelevant. Yet, take heart, blessed are those who suffer persecution for righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. The applause of men is fleeting and hollow, but the approval of God is eternal and unshakable. Do not exchange your eternal purpose for temporary peace, do not trade lasting destiny for momentary ease. Stand firm in faith, pure in heart, and ready for whatever lies ahead. For those who fear hope has passed, hear this: as long as God speaks, hope lives. As long as breath fills your lungs, repentance is possible. As long as the church kneels in prayer, nations can be restored. You are not beyond repair, not too broken, not too lost. The Almighty pursues you with relentless love, never turning His face away but inviting you to turn your face toward Him. Redemption is still within reach, renewal still a possibility. The grace of God reaches into the darkest places to bring light, healing, and restoration. Yes, this is a warning, a call to wakefulness and action. But it is also an invitation. An invitation to embrace redemption, to experience renewal, and to write the greatest chapter in your nation's history, the chapter where return becomes reality. The world watches, not with indifference but with anticipation. Heaven watches, eager to see the move of God on the earth. Future generations, yet unborn, wait with hopeful hearts to inherit the legacy you choose to forge today. The choice before America stands as stark as fire and water, blessing and curse. What will you choose? Will you choose ruin or revival? Will you yield to the forces of division and despair, or will you rise to the challenge of unity and hope? The power to shape destiny lies not in the hands of distant leaders or faceless masses but in each heartbeat willing to respond to the call. Choose wisely. Choose humbly. Choose God. The voice of God continues to speak, calling out across the noise and chaos, beckoning you to come home. Answer that call, not tomorrow, not later, but now. For in this moment lies the power to turn despair into hope, to transform brokenness into beauty, and to ignite a fire that will never be extinguished. The chapter of revival awaits your pen. Write boldly. Write faithfully. Write with the courage of the redeemed and the hope of the faithful. This is your moment. This is the time for revival. This is the call to true return. The destiny of a nation is in the hands of those willing to answer. Will you rise? Will you stand? Will you choose God? The time is now. Come home.